Welcome. Welcome again. Thank you to the executive leadership team, our CEO Sharon, and certainly council officers will be presenting reports here today. Councillors, we also have Steve Gallatley here, and I'll get to Stephen in a moment. He's had to sit through all the media ruckus here this morning. Certainly nice to see something happening locally instead of on the federal election campaign trail. Apparently we're very important, so it's good that they were here this morning. Councillors, in terms of our presence here today, we have an apology and a leave of absence that was sought previously from Councillor Cypher. So would someone like to move her apology, please? Moved by Councillor Byrne, second by Councillor Daniels. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Leave of absence required. Now, councillors, I've had a request from Councillor Curtis seeking leave of absence for the council meetings on the 25th of May and the 15th of June. Councillors, that's correct, Councillor Curtis? All good? Any other leaves of absence required? I will deal with them separately just to record them separately at the appropriate time, but I was just thinking if there was a list, I'll gather them up. All right, so councillors, in terms of leave of absence going forward, Councillor Curtis has requested that leave of absence for 25th of May, 15th of June. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, second by Councillor Burns. All in favour? Against? Well, it looks like your wish is granted, Councillor Curtis. And thank you for that. I guess there's certainly times when it's very, very difficult and busy to get here. So, all right, councillors, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge certainly that currently in our gallery you will see an artist by the name of Camille Swallow, who's actually has a strong association with our place. And certainly through her art, she has reflected a lot of her experiences in the Central Highlands, and she's very, very proud of her Indigenous culture as well, and that's reflected in her drawings here. So we acknowledge all those peoples as well. Councillors, we have the benefit of our churches together providing us with an opening prayer. Can I say, at times like these, Stephen, we are very grateful for lots of things we have. Certainly, it's always good to be the pastor the day after the rain and taking responsibility for bringing it. But more than that, in terms of your mentorship to our community and your work with the churches together, thank you for being here, and we look forward to leading us this morning. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hayes. I just wanted to reflect a little this morning. I guess we all recognise that we live in very uncertain times, whether it's at a local level with industry, election looming, or whether it's at a national level or even an international level. There's a lot that can cause fear in our hearts, uncertainty for us going forward as individuals and as a society, as a people. And I actually just wanted to look to a psalm. So it's like a prayer or a song that was written by David of David and Goliath fame. I don't know if you guys recognise that story of old, but as a young man, as he was out in his pastoral setting, he would sing songs to the Lord, and it really expressed his heart. And I just wanted to read a portion of this psalm, Psalm 16 this morning. I think it just reflects the times in which we live, and it reflects a heart that looks beyond the circumstances to something that's solid, something that we can depend on year in, year out. And I'll just read this psalm as a prayer this morning, and I might just tack a little bit of my own on at the end, and then leave you guys to get on with the business to which you've been given the responsibility. But it goes like this: Keep me safe, O God, for in you I take refuge. I said to the Lord, you are my Lord. Apart from you, or without you, I have no good thing. As for the saints who are in the land, the holy people, they are the glorious ones in whom is all my delight. I know that the sorrows increase for those who run after other gods. I will not pour out their sacrifices of blood or take up their names on my lips. Lord, and this is where I think it comes home for us. Lord, you have assigned me my portion and my cup. You have made my lot secure. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. I think for a long time that has been Australia's experience. And his prayer goes, I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Who knows that in the wee small hours of the night or in the morning hours can be the times when our fears come back to grab us, those things that trouble us, that shake us, whether at a personal level or at a wider level of what we're facing in the world. But may we be reminded this morning that instead of fear, we still have the option of exercising faith, that there is someone who is greater than it all, who's still watching and who's still offering his help for us who are willing or humble enough to ask for his help. And I'm thankful that today, on behalf of this local area and this council, you give me the opportunity to pray and ask for that help for you guys today. So let's do that. Father God, thank you that you are the one that in every season, whether in seasons of great prosperity, in seasons of lack, or in seasons of uncertainty, you are the constant. You are always true, and you're always faithful. We have not been faithful. God, we are a people that are often distracted by many other things, and we often forget you, or willfully reject you. But God, I pray that you would help us as a people, particularly gathered in this place today, the councillors and officers of the Central Highlands Regional Council, this little place in the grand scheme of things, but God, each one of these people, Lord God, is on your heart today, and I bring this meeting and these people to you, that your grace and your mercy, your peace and your provision may extend to these people and to us in this region, even as we ask for peace upon the earth. We ask it in Jesus' name.
Amen.
God bless you.
Thank you, Stephen. And you didn't claim the rain or assisted the provision thereof?
Yeah, do you know, it actually says in the good book, the rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous. So I guess there's a little bit of that in all of us. So we just pray for when it comes. We continue to pray, but we're grateful when it comes.
Thank you, Pastor Stephen. I thought you were going to point people out then and put them in teams. But anyhow, thank you very much. And thank you very much for your ongoing work in our community. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
God bless you.
It's all good, Stephen. Thank you. Councillors, we get to the hard part of our agenda, or not necessarily the hard part, but certainly the formal part of our agenda, the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, of which I was an apology. So was someone that was present there like to move those? Thanks. Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded Councillor Curtis. So that's been moved and seconded, Councillor. So I think Councillor Rolfe as chair there was a little typo somewhere in here.
Yeah, typo. Mayor in, I'll find the page. 18? Yes. Page 18, when there was, it should read carried 5-2. Because we were all still in the room.
All right, Councillor, that's been noted. We'll make that change. Any other? Happy with that? It is quite a long set of minutes, obviously, given that there was an approval in there as well. So, the councillors happy with those? All right. So, councillors, been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Business arising out of those minutes. It's also almost a very formal part of our agenda to have business arising out of minutes, and sometimes that is the case, but when you have a mechanism that actually deals with actions and things afterwards, we tend to, I think, as a matter of habit to go to there, but there certainly is that provision there if there was something in those minutes that was to be rediscussed. Review of outstanding meeting actions, if I can lead you to that. Is there any discussion, comments, questions or otherwise? All good, thank you, councillors. Upcoming agenda items, I guess it's been our pet flavour of the quarter, so we've been saying that obviously that mechanism is still there and we need to use that well. CEO, there's no petitions raised?
No, Mayor.
Yeah. All right, councillors, that gets us to our decision action reports part of our meeting. Certainly the first activity there is 12.1, which comes under the hand of General Manager John McDougall from Communities in terms of planning application there under the READY initiative. So I'll hand it on. Thank you.
Excuse me, sorry, General Manager McDougall. Mayor, did you want to check for conflicts of interest?
Oh, my apologies, councillors. Our favourite topic, conflicts of interest. Councillors, is there any definitions or declarations to be made? And you've received none, Marnie, prior to the meeting? Okay, thank you, councillors. And obviously the same rider goes that if there is any time in a conversation where you don't feel comfortable with that, just please record any conflict or raise the question of conflict at that point of time. We can deal with that then. So, sorry. Over to
Mr Mayor, good morning, councillors and officers. This report evaluates an application under our Regional Economic Development Incentive program, and I'll hand over to the Planning and Environment team, both Sarah and Kirsten, to present the report. Thank you.
Level 1.
Thank
you, General Manager McDougall. Good morning, everyone.
Sarah, you'll have to turn yours on too. Yep. Thank you.
A development approval was granted for a material change of use at 30 Woodbine Street, Springshaw, for a retirement facility and a residential care facility. Originally in 2015, extended in 2019, and has a current approval until 2025. The applicant has now applied for a subsidy under the Regional Economic Development Incentive Policy. Council has previously either waived or refunded all assessment fees associated with this development. This report has evaluated the development against the READY policy and has determined that it is eligible for a 70% refund of the infrastructure charges levied when the application was approved. This recommendation has been made because the proposed development demonstrated compliance with the policy in terms of capital investment and job creation, commitment to reducing its carbon footprint, the ability to be operational within 2 years, viability through a fully costed business plan, and as a key strategic industry that will operate as an aged care facility. One matter of non-compliance relates to section 5.2 of the policy. Is the project contestable? Other locations were not considered in the site selection process. The land was acquired by council before being transferred to the applicant for the purpose of developing an aged care facility in Springshaw. The recommendation therefore remains at a 70% refund of infrastructure charges, which amounts to $78,186.50. A development compliance certificate has now been included in the fees and charges that will come into effect in July this year and will be in effect when this building is ready to be inspected. This will be issued prior to the applicant claiming the rebate to ensure that the facility is compliant with the conditions of approval. The timing of this will be around February next year. The cost of this certificate is $726. This makes the total incentive funding amount $78,912.50. Thank you. I can answer any questions if required.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And I guess in a way, having had, I guess, a reasonable discussion about certainly the READY, it's nice to have the opportunity of an actual example coming towards us and seeing how beneficial, certainly in its current form, that certainly the READY policy provides for community. And clearly the fact that Ivy Anderson received this funding in the Building Better Regions funding package recently. I guess as a means of a little update, and I seek your indulgence here, councillors, that obviously that progress is happening. There has been some strong assistance, I suppose, provided by council in terms of certainly changed the design a little bit over some infrastructure locations, and the footprints changed, but having spoken to, I guess, some of those involved, they're working closely with council to make sure that there's as seamlessly as possible, activity and response to things that are happening there, and they obviously can happen quite urgently at times. So we are actually, I guess, working closely to make sure that this very, very important piece of infrastructure, I think that is so significant from a regional perspective, is provided for in community. So, councillors, questions for Sarah just on the fund? All good. Sorry, Councillor Moriarty.
Yep. Good. Thank you very much. I was just wondering, I know that just to make it clear that it's $250,000 a year that council allocates to the Ready Fund, and just from looking here within the information, so to date there's only been $33,000 in this financial year used of the $250,000.
That's correct, Councillor Moriarty.
And I'm just looking from the equity perspective, and given that there's only about 6 weeks left of this financial year, would there be any other applications that are coming forward if the full amount was granted, plus the $33,000 odd dollars that would be coming forward at all, that might be more than probably $150,000?
I don't have another one.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's no current applications for additional readies at this time. That's not to say that some wouldn't be lodged within the next, I guess, 6 weeks before the agenda would close for the last meeting of the financial year.
So would be fair to say that after, if this is passed today, that there'd probably be about $120,000 still available in that funding allocation for this financial year. Yeah.
That's correct.
I just wanted to clarify that, because it's a great, generous initiative of council, and of course the Ivy Anderson House project has been happening for many years, and council has been really generous in supporting that project to happen at Springshaw, and support the community that have been advancing that. My only other thing that I would like to say is that I know that there's processes for all of that, but when the time comes, I hope that council is considerate of other communities that may be looking at this kind of these kind of projects as well going forward. So thank you very much. From an equity perspective, I've had my questions answered. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Right, thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Councillor Robb.
So through you, Mayor, to John, is there a opportunity then with, as Councillor Moriarty is saying, that there's only a little time left in the year to actually increase the percentage of rebate on this one?
I might refer to Kirsten, but and pull me up if I say anything wrong here. But there is the ability for council, I believe, in the Ready scheme itself, to make a decision above what a recommendation may be. So, Kirsten, if you would like to indulge any further there.
Thank you, John. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So within the READY policy, there is the provision in 8.3 which lists out the incentives that are applicable. So in this instance, the Ivy Anderson Committee was eligible to up to 100% waiver of associated development application fees, which we do understand were waived in the last council meeting in accordance with the fee schedule, and then up to 70% reduction in levied charges. We've never increased in the life of the READY that reduction in infrastructure charges beyond the 70%, as it's not outlined within the READY. However, we do recognise that it is up to council's discretion if they do want to go above and beyond a policy. I guess the trouble that we may have there is that it might set a precedent. So it's not to say that another READY application won't be lodged within the next couple of weeks for an approval. Yeah.
No, I wasn't aware, sorry. I wasn't aware that the upper limit was 70%. So that's fine. I'm not suggesting that we should.
No problem.
No, thank you, Councillor Rolfe. And I think, you know, the discussion that we had recently in respect of, you know, I suppose any change or broadening of certainly the policy as an integrated, the integration part of it would certainly allow some flexibility, I guess, that might be articulated in that going forward. So I sense your point there, Councillor Rolfe. So, well, look, councillors, the recommendation is there that the Central Highlands Regional Council does a couple of things there. One is approve the Rural Economic Development Incentive application with that particular material change of use for the Ivy Anderson home. And the second part of that is that it requires that the applicant must claim the payment by 30 June 2024. So there's, I know there's lots of work and lots of things and lots of timelines being met there, but that's certainly the timeline for this particular grant. Would someone like to move that? Thanks, Councillor Rolfe. Seconded, Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's very exciting. I agree with you, Councillor Moriarty. That's will be a tremendous thing for that community. All right, councillors. Our Central Highlands Regional Council Gemfields planning study. The next steps. Once again, this falls under General Manager John and certainly to his officers. So thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning again, councillors. This is a bit of a decision report here regarding the Central Highlands Regional Council Gemfields planning study, and I'll hand straight over to Millie and to Kirsten to present the report. Thank you, ladies.
Lovely, thank you, John. Through you, Mr. Mayor, as John shadowed, this is a report which Council is working on, a project which Council is working on together with the state government, being the Department of Resources, to develop a planning study that will create a guiding blueprint for the future of the Gemfields and the communities of Sapphire, Rubyvale, Willows and Anarchy and the immediate surrounds. The planning study will aim to provide a full picture of the challenges that face the Gemfields and to identify where changes can be supported to further strengthen, grow and support these communities now and into the future. These changes may include things such as land tenure, mining tenure, zoning, building and infrastructure required to service these communities. To support the successful delivery of this project, a governance framework will be developed and established, incorporating a project steering group and a community stakeholder project reference group. So I'll hand to Millie to discuss some of the items in terms of the recommendation and the documentation before us today in terms of the draft terms of reference.
Thank you, Kirsten, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The officer's recommendation today sets out a request for council endorsement for the establishment of two groups, one being the Planning Study Community and Stakeholder Project Reference Group and the other being the Planning Study Project Steering Group. The Project Reference Group is an advisory group largely made up of members of the community and other key stakeholders. The Project Reference Group will desire to be deployed as part of the planning study, as well as providing essential community feedback which will be input into the scope of the planning study, with a view to ensuring that community feedback is embedded within the planning study project. The terms of reference provide for a number of core members within the category set out in Part 5 of the terms of reference to be determined by way of an expression of interest application process, which is then outlined at Part 4 of the terms of reference. And then in addition to those core members, the terms of reference also provide for a number of ex officio members, including 2 councillors to be determined by way of councillor nomination resolution today. In addition to that project reference group is the project steering group. That's an internal Central Highlands Regional Council group providing strategic guidance in relation to the planning study by taking community and stakeholder feedback from the project reference group and embedding it at each stage of the scope of work revision. The terms of reference seek that council appoint a councillor as chair of the steering group and up to 2 councillors as core members of the steering group today by resolution. I'll now hand over to councillors for questions, comments and deliberation.
Right, that was just a brief introduction. So it's, an interesting document to read through. So councillors, questions or discussion? And did you want to add anything, CEO? Oh, sorry, Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, and I'm really happy with the terms of reference. There was just one point that I picked up that, actually, sorry, 2 points that I wanted to focus in on. The first being that the items being provided to the steering group, it doesn't mention the minutes there of the PRG, so could we get those included? It's on page 42 of our agenda. The second being the only concern I have with not having a quorum for the advisory group is that, and I understand what you're trying to say is that this for a minimum voting, but I guess there needs to be enough people there that we're going to get a good cross-section of opinions. And so that's my only concern, I guess, and it always seems to happen that when everyone seems to not be able to attend at one meeting and you'll end up with 3 or whatever. So that's my only concern about not having any number or reference to a sufficient amount of people to make a consideration of the items.
Okay, so sorry, Councillor Daniels, just for clarification.
Sorry.
So on page 42, which is the all documents required. So we've got the QRIDP plan draft.
That's it.
The Central Highlands Regional Council planning scheme, the Gemfields Community Reference Group, have your say page, and the PRG terms of reference. Sorry, what did you need, Ed?
I asked for the PRG minutes.
The PRG.
The reference group, the community reference group minutes.
Yeah, terms of reference. No,
yep.
Fine. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that they've been included, so you're happy that they're there. Okay.
That they can be included. And then the second one was, and I'm sorry I didn't mention the page, page 46 of our agenda is just talking about there will be no minimum quorum for the meeting. Yep. I just sort of wanted maybe some tightening up around that to saying that there needs to be sufficient people for, I don't know what you say, but in my mind there needs to be sufficient people attending any meeting so that we have got the ability to have a reasonable cross-section of...
So in that section it says the chair and core members are required to attend all meetings in person unless... Oh, sorry, it's a line before that there will be no minimum quorum for the meeting. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how...
I hear what you're saying. I don't think you'd like 4 people to be there and that to be then construed as a meeting without there being... Yep, okay. So, solution? Yeah, definitely.
Yes, so draw councillors' attention to item 4 of the recommendation. So we're not seeking, in this instance, for the terms of reference that have been drafted to be adopted by council, because taking on board feedback we felt was important to be able to actually talk to the group once the initial membership that comes out of the EOI in order to finalise those. But And so the recommendation is to delegate that authority to me. That's up to councillors if you do that or not, but I've taken down note of those 2 suggestions, which I think are eminently sensible. And the other thing that I've noted is that there's a discrepancy between the number of councillors, the up to number of councillors in the officer recommendations versus in the draft terms of reference. So it is correct in the report to council, and we'll fix the terms of reference to match that.
Would that satisfy you, Councillor Daniels?
Yes, I am.
What I'm certainly just saying in terms of before we actually contemplate the recommendation is I'd be happy for it to be delegated to the CEO, because I think it'd be quite counterintuitive not to have a quorum at a meeting that's representative of the community. So,
thank you.
Get that. Sorry, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just some clarification about the councillor membership, I think. I was just noting, if I've got this right, which is probably some of what the CEO was referring to there, that the project steering committee has 3 councillors and the reference group has 2 councillors. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So just asking. So that's 5 councillors involved, 5 positions. Were you thinking that would be then 5 different councillors?
That's up to councillors.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And so is the number. That can be altered as well, if you think.
And there was, as you know, informally, there's been discussion about, you know, certainly the makeup, and, you know, in some instances, and a question I think we did discuss, that the different classifications, I guess you'd say, of potential applicants can actually be crossover. Some business people, community people are in different groups, and so they were going to argue that, you know, we're going to be steadfastly sort of making sure there's an extra number too. So I guess there's going to be a little bit of discretion there, I guess, at some point in making sure we get that right. So it could be the same with councillors. So I just need a little bit of clarification there. So today when we're actually adopting, if we adopt this recommendation, you want the councillor delegates actually named in this now? So that's a nomination process now?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Yeah, okay. So is it possible, I was just going to say to have a look at, remember we had that structure, that design of the plan that and the hierarchy, I guess we had on with the is that not in this report somewhere?
The framework that shows
the
the
framework,
governance
yeah.
framework, it's not in this report.
I think that, yeah, it would help
Like
just
that?
to see, it would like if someone could project that on the screen, because I know it's kind of
Yep, that's
an
no
actual
problem.
thing, it's a practical thing now, I think, if people just want to look at that.
Just give us a moment.
Yep.
Thank you.
So
Under pressure.
Councillor, I apologise for being over simplistic here, I'd just like to see how that's going to work.
Online, isn't it? No, it's good. I'm trying to search for it.
Well, we're all going to have it tattooed on our right arm, so we need to have it. It was in a document, Marnie, I guess. Now, the other thing too is dealing with, I guess, Councillor Cypher's absent today. I'm not sure whether she's indicated she'd like to be involved, so I don't want a councillor to miss out on the opportunity of being involved, so.
Mr Mayor, sorry, you calling the nominations?
Not just yet, if that's right, Councillor Murray, I'm just seeking just if we can to get that structure up on the
Can I have just a point of clarification on the terms of reference as well? And it relates to what I will nominate for. So I'll voice what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in nominating for the steering group. However, I would like to have the opportunity, if the need arises, to be an observer on the project reference group. Reading the terms of reference, is that able to be, if there's obviously 2 other councils that are on that, am I able to just seek an invitation through the chair to become an observer?
It's a good point, and I think there's the opportunity to be ex officio, I guess, in terms of your observations. I don't believe that's not constructive, and it was a question I was going to ask as well. Thanks, Councillor Daniels. So it's as long as I guess the majority sort of feel it's they're comfortable with that. I think we do that in lots of other committees. It's a benefit. The only thing will be, as long as we certainly have our terms of reference tight around quorum and things, dedicated councillor, if they're not present, won't be counted as a quorum. An observer will still be an observer. So as long as we observe those sorts of things, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do that. So. Oh, there we go. That's the one we're dealing with?
Just to answer the question as the mechanism to implement that. So again, under the recommendation where if council's delegate authority for me to finalise the terms of reference, I can put certainly in the draft terms of reference before it goes to the membership for review that there be observers. Well, I can just put that in, and then when that gets finalised, that would clean up what the mayor said about the observers don't vote.
Yes.
If there's a vote.
I
It
think
still needs
restricted
to
though to the councillor component, not more broadly, because otherwise you will have a significant gallery. It's just
So
more
councillor observers from time to time,
Absolutely, yep.
if councillors are comfortable with that.
Yep. Right. Is that the most contemporary one? Yeah, it's there. All right, so councillors, I'm just a bit of a visual person in terms of just seeing that, so understanding just how that would work. Right, so,
Except for the number of councillors.
yeah. So the adjustment to, I guess you'd say, the reference document will be a mechanism that won't need to affect this, because these are going to be the core councillors, I guess you'd say. So, just as an indication, councillors quite happy to see observer councillor numbers available, because there's an objection to that. We're not adopting this in a resolution, but I just want a clear indication so we can do that in terms of the drafts. Councillor Rolfe.
We do that in other groups, it works pretty well.
Sorry?
Yeah.
It works well.
Yeah, okay. So
It was the
Councillor Rolfe.
reference group, I think, wasn't it, councillor Daniels, that you were referring to having observers as a potential,
Yeah.
not the steering group?
Councillor observers, to obviously seek invitation, or to advise before you do it.
Sorry, go Councillor Rolfe.
Yeah, can I just query that councillor observers to a reference group if you're not going to put the invitation out to observers from the community. I query that because it is a stakeholder project reference group and community.
It is, and I guess the issue then would be you will then arguably have 1,000 people that might turn up for an event. Yeah. So I think in terms of the practicality and the functionality, it was just more that from a councillor observer perspective and the limitation on those numbers, an observer capacity for councillors would be helpful.
Or is it an observer from the project steering group? Is that what it is?
Is
Right.
it what, sorry, councillor Daniels?
Is it allowing observers from the project steering group?
Oh, okay. If you're a councillor member of the project steering group, the opportunity to also observe
Yeah,
the reference group.
That mechanism probably tightens it up.
Yeah.
Yep,
That-
sounds
that's
good.
fine. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right, so councillors, I suppose in terms of the way they're presented here, so the Central Highlands Planning Study steering, what happened to my design?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was working on it, yeah. Okay, so the functionality of that is obviously that is the steering group. It's in the, I suppose that was a mayor, 2 councillors, principal projects officer, John McDougall, Jason Houlihan, Kirsten Byrne, or nominee, project manager and state government. So we're looking for 2 other councillors.
Yeah, but the mayor.
So the mayor's actually include mayor and 2 councillors. So that might need to read mayor and 2 councillors.
That's right, just the
Yep.
resolution.
It can be sorted out. So councillors, 2 councillors for the steering group.
I'd like to self-nominate, but I'd also like to nominate Councillor Moriarty to be on that steering group as well.
Councillor, I'm sorry.
Now, I'm just mindful, is councillor, just before before the nomination process, I guess, I'm happy for you to self-nominate, because is Councillor Cypher likely to...
I was going to say, Councillor Cypher had previously indicated that she wanted to be on the reference group.
Okay.
That's in line with your understanding, yes,
So
so.
as long as you people are prepared to take that responsibility of telling Councillor
Yeah,
Cypher that's
no,
what happened.
I'm happy, and I will nominate councillor Cypher for the reference group.
Okay, so
Thank you.
for the spokesman for the three councillors, I'm suspecting is Councillor Daniels. I'm delineating that. So let's do them one at a time. Councillor Daniels is nominated for the project steering group, and Councillor Moriarty, are you nominating for the project steering group?
Yes, happy
Council
to.
steering group, okay, so any others, because we may have to have a ballot? That's two, and Mayor?
That's it.
That's it? Right, so councillor, just hold that thought, so at this stage, because we're adopting the recommendation in its entirety here. Okay, so we get to the second part, which two councillors for the Central Highlands Gemfields Planning Study Community and Stakeholder Project Reference Group. Interested to see their acronym when they get it going. So Councillor Daniels is nominating Councillor Cypher,
That's correct.
right? So we need another councillor.
Councillor Rolfe.
God bless you all. This is democracy working brilliantly. So Councillor Rolfe, you're nominating for the project for that group. So councillor, that's our two councillors. So Councillor Cypher in her absentia and Councillor Rolfe. Happy with that? All right, so let's hold that thought. So they've filled in the blank spaces. Anything else you want to add, CEO, before we go with the recommendation?
And just to deal with it, and Councillor Daniels nominating as interested as being an observer, we don't need that as a nomination because we can deal with that via the terms of reference saying that.
Well, it could be any one of the councillors.
I think we decided we talked about if they were a councillor representative on the steering group, then they would be.
Exactly.
So provided you are.
Yep.
Provided you're accepted by fellow councillors as a member of the steering group, then that will follow through when we finalise the terms of reference.
Right. Okay, right, so councillors, if you're happy enough to look at the recommendation, there's a number of things in there. So obviously endorses the establishment of the group, the project steering group, the establishment of the stakeholder project reference group. 3, notes the draft terms of reference for the following, and there's the two references there. Delegates authority to the CEO to finalise improving the terms of reference, including that mechanism we've just discussed, and others. Appoints up to 3 councillors, Mayor and 2 councillors, to the Central Highlands Gemfields Planning Study Project Group. Appoints the 2 councillors, which we've identified, to the Central Highlands Gemfields Planning Study Community and Stakeholder Project Reference Group. And 7, endorses to prepare and release a formal expression of interest campaign seeking nominations from community and stakeholder representatives to form part of the Central Highlands Gemfields Planning Study Community and Stakeholder Project Reference Group. All right, we've got all of that? Okay, is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. Now, the nomination, sorry, I didn't read those out, but we've got them there. Councillors, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? We're underway. Thank you very much, councillors. Great. Thank you for all that work. There's been a lot of work done in a very short space of time, and it's been quite fluid, I guess, in some respects. So thank you very much, Kirsten. Thank you, Millie. Council, it's going to be quite mundane to come down to just consideration of a development application, but that's exactly what we're going to do. Councillors, 12.1.3 is a reconfiguration of lot application and certainly falls under General Manager John McDougall's area and his team. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll hand straight over to Rebecca and Kirsten to present the report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Through you, Mr Mayor, the report before us is for a reconfiguring a lot for a subdivision of 1 into 2 lots at 1 Mulga Street, Blackwater, which is located within the Blackwater Priority Development Area Open Space Zone and contains the Blackwater Golf Course. The application is recommended for approval subject to conditions, with a levied charge notice being issued in accordance with Section 116G of the Economic Development Act. I'll hand over to Rebecca to go through the points of interest with the application.
Thank you, Kirsten. Through you, Mr Mayor. The decision report presented to Council today recommends approval of a development permit for reconfiguring a lot for a subdivision from one lot into two lots at 1 Mulga Street, Blackwater. The property contains the Blackwater Golf Course and is in the open space zone of the Blackwater Priority Development Area Development Scheme. The application seeks to subdivide the land from one lot into two lots. The existing buildings associated with the golf course will be within proposed lot 3, which is just over 3 hectares in area. The golf course itself will be retained in a balanced lot 2, which is 81.356 hectares in area. The proposed lot 3 captures all land and buildings that council has agreed to dispose of under a separate resolution previously. Under council's planning decision-making framework, this application is required to be brought to council for approval as the land is currently owned by council. This application under the priority development area was considered permissible development, which is equivalent to code-assessable development that you know of, and therefore no public notification was required and no submissions have been received. The officers have undertaken an assessment against the Blackwater PDA development scheme and are satisfied the application complies with the relevant assessment criteria. The application was referred to the state government, the Economic Development Queensland, and a response has been provided confirming all state interests have been addressed by the application. The officers have therefore recommended approval of the application subject to conditions which are outlined in the officers' report. If agreed, this approval will be current for 4 years, and applications within the Blackwater PDA attract charges in line with council's charges resolution. So for this site, the total charge payable for the creation of one additional lot is $28,000. And I'm happy to take any questions if required, councillors.
All right, thank you. I guess just as a matter of process, clearly in this case, the landowner is actually the Central Highlands Regional Council. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for the reason why we could sit here and make a determination about, I guess, a reconfiguration of a lot on a piece of land that we actually own. And that would be that, I'll leave it to others to potentially explain that, but was that contemplated, I guess, in any advice to us? Because I guess it just would have been a note worthy of actually making that in terms of any, I'm not saying there is a conflict of interest, there might be a very, very reasonable, plausible excuse why that's appropriate, but I guess different from, I know, in previous experience with the Saliards, where there was in fact the organisation managed to separate, I guess, the applicant from the actual determination of that particular matter. Is this different?
Through you, Mr Mayor. The reason why this report was going to council for decision, it's within the planning decision framework where council and properties get escalated for council for resolution as opposed to being determined by the assessment officer.
That's fine. But I just, I understand that mechanism. I just understand the mechanism that technically the owner of that property is us, of which this board is making a decision or determination in terms of that, and I think just by any measure, without preempting the likely outcome, there would be perceptibly a loss or a gain perceptibly to that determination. So I just wanted to make sure that. Yeah.
And I can confirm it has been through governance in terms of the assessment of that procedure before it was taken to council last year. And it's, the decision-making powers of council is consistent with what other councils do in relation to council-owned properties.
Yep. All right. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you. Your question was part of my question as well. I just think that if council's going through this process of whatever it really is, making decisions on its own transactions of land, that there wasn't at a minimum some sort of public consultation, not consultation, but opportunity for the public to even provide some comment. I just thought that would at least have some sort of transparency in that process to help decision making. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Through you, Mr Mayor, the assessment of the application has followed, the statutory process that is required. Unfortunately, there isn't a mechanism in there which requires where council is the landowner to undertake that process of statutory public notification. That would be, I guess, an additional step that council would need to initiate, separate to a DA process.
Yeah. Sometimes just because it's legislated doesn't mean to say it's good practice or something that's inclusive. Sorry, you hear me say that all the time. But I just wanted to just ask, because I thought that this was separating that land so it could be sold. But it's only a 4-year agreement. Sorry, I thought I had it right, but can you clarify that for me? Sorry.
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. So the understanding is that there is a separate arrangement through the Property Services team for the disposal of the proposed lot 3, which includes the buildings and structures of the golf course. The golf course itself, I understand, is remaining in council ownership. And sorry, what was the second part of your question? Where does the 4 years come in? Oh, and so the 4 years was, so that's 4 years to complete the subdivision and have the titles registered with council. So, the subdivision.
Right, sorry. And who pays the $28,000, did you say?
So the charges notice would be issued to the applicant, who is council in this instance.
So council pay the $28,000?
As would be normal with any subdivision that council was undertaking. We are treated just like any other customer who might be an applicant.
So when we sell our land to ourselves, we still charge ourselves?
There's internal transactions that take effect.
Yep. Thank you.
Sorry, General Manager, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in regards to, and I will note before council that the Department of Customer and Commercial Services, Murray's and Associates act on behalf of us as the applicant. In regards to infrastructure, council may recall, and the Mayor is quite right in regards to, this is another step in a number of procedural matters that have occurred in regards to the Blackwater Mine Workers organisation going into liquidation. The council took over the lease of that land, freeholded that land from the state, and we're now at the point of a subdivision where we're subdividing off that parcel of the land that will then be sold to the new operators of the clubhouse and those types of facilities for the Blackwater Golf Club. And within the agreements between council as the applicant and the other parties in regards to the freeholding of the land and subsequently then post approval of the subdivision, the sale of that land is, and that was also detailed in previous reports with council as well, is in regards to some apportionment of those costs that council incurred, as previously reported to council.
Thanks, General Manager. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, sorry, Mayor, I just wanted to ask, do you guys send out a letter for the bill for the applicant?
Through you, Mr Mayor, is that with the charges notice?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as part of the approval package, if council resolves today, the approval package would include the conditions, the approved plan of development and that charges notice. So then if there are any negotiations between parties after the fact, council still receives that money in terms of the planning and environment budget for infrastructure charges, so it comes into council that way.
So, councillors, I guess I'm happy enough with the procedure in terms of as long as the application is treated on its merits, that's fine, and the conditions are consistent with what anyone normally would have. It was just my question about obviously the determination. I understand procedurally that's possible, so I'm happy with that. So, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I still feel like I'm making a decision a little bit with one eye closed, so without some feedback from the community about what their concerns might be and what that looks like for them going forward. Thank you.
All right, I guess, so councillors, the recommendation, if there's no more questions, is that we approve that the development application with a priority development area for a development permit. You understand that we now make those decisions. Prior, that was obviously determined by the other organisation. Second part of that, levies and a charges notice in accordance with 116G of the Economic Development Act, which is relevant there. And then obviously those conditions are also part of that recommendation. So, and they are, as is normally the case, relevant to page, like stacks and stacks of them. So councillors, that recommendation is there. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Brindlecombe, seconded by Councillor Rolfe. All in favour? Against? Would you like your vote recorded, Councillor Moriarty? Thank you, Marnie. All right. Thank you very much, Kirsten. Thank you. Beck?
Thanks, ladies.
So there should be no doubt as to the hard-working department in our organisation. The Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group, councillors falls under General Manager John McDougall again and his team. And I hope John had a good break and rest and refresh and back at work. And thank you very much, Lisa, for your acting role while John was absent. So much appreciated. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the kind words. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to propose the formation of the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group. As you would be aware, you have had the opportunity previously to this to have a look at the terms of reference, and with that in mind, I'll hand over to Lisa Donlan, Manager Parks and Recreation, to talk through this decision report. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we're bringing you today the terms of reference for the advisory group. Work on these began in July 2021, and it's really in response to forming a group to better manage some of our sensitive natural spaces. Those include Rifle Range Road, Nature Reserve, Sapphire Gemfields Wetlands, the Emerald Botanic Gardens, Mackenzie Park in Doringa, the Regional Significant Tree Register, which was completed last year, the Japanese Gardens in Blackwater, and any future parks of significance. The expertise of the proposed new group, we feel, would be of great benefit to the management of all these sensitive and special spaces. In terms of the terms of reference that we've provided, it proposes a core membership of a blend of councillors, officers, and then external specialists, which include representatives from state government, which may be the Department of Environment and Science or other state departments that are relevant, Indigenous land management representatives, a maximum of 4 scientists, naturalists, or other qualified specialists, and 2 community members. Today, we're requesting that Council endorse the establishment of the advisory group, that you appoint up to 3 councillors, including 1 to be chair of the advisory group, and that you endorse a formal expression of interest campaign to seek nominations from the other candidates. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Daniels.
Oh, thank you. Just a quick question. I was noting when, what is it now? I should have made a note, sorry. It was regarding the membership of the committee, and it talked about nominations would be sought in December for finalisation in January. Is the intent that this committee won't start until like January next year, or is that that's obviously the replenishment and of future members?
Yes, Councillor Daniels, it would be for the replenishment. So in a normal year, that's the timing of the process. But obviously, once approved, or if approved, we'd be keen to move forward on this immediately.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And I do note that fictitious name that for the wetlands reserve still keeps popping up in reports. Before it was a reserve, it was unallocated state land, nothing else. Thank you.
All right, questions, anyone else? Oh, Councillor Moriarty, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to nominate myself and Councillor Daniels to be representatives.
I'm not taking nominations just yet. I'm just going to get some questions, if that's all right, Councillor Moriarty. We'll get to that. Thank you. Councillor Carpenter?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering why it's limited to those particular areas. I would have thought that it needs to be a bit broader in what it covers.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, did you mean geographically, or that it only says certain parks and open spaces? Is that the question, why it's only some of them and not all of them? So in answer to that, initially at least, these are the spaces that are special in some way or might require more knowledge than we have internally in staff to conduct research and do different things in some of those spaces. We have added, though, that any future parks of significance decided by council from time to time could be added to the remit. So it's quite possible that if other spaces are identified, they can just be added at any time then.
Right. Other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rolfe, yeah.
Yes, Lisa, through you, Chair. Lisa, the core members, and you talk about having a maximum of 4 scientists, naturalist representatives. So you're basically, if they can't be a member for a full 2 years, that sort of thing, if they can't make themselves available, and I suppose the state government representative as well, how are you going to allow, I suppose, the comings and goings of those sorts of people?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, the terms of reference provide for casual vacancies. So it gives us the opportunity to discuss with researchers, for example, they may only be available for 6 months or staff may change. We can then appoint someone to that casual vacancy for the remainder of their term.
All right, councillors, now, the nomination process. Now, can I just say, the optics are you will nominate yourself, because in the event that a number of nominations are here, I don't want there to be the Central Highland Natural Spaces progress ticket to looking like they're a separate group. So, councillors, I'm saying, Councillor Moriarty, you're a nominee? Yes. Right, Councillor Daniels.
I will nominate.
You will nominate, thank you. So that's 2. Councillor Brimblecombe? Any other nominations?
Can I just seek clarification? Are we deciding today who is the chair with these nominations, or is that something that will be done as part of the formation?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, yes, what we're requesting is that councillors nominate 3, and of the 3, which would be the chair. Okay. So we're asking council to decide the chair.
Okay, I am only nominating as a core member.
I don't know, Councillor Dent. I don't think I could extend that protection to you. I think that a lot of councillors were looking forward to the opportunity of using their democratic vote to allocate well. Okay, so Councillor Daniels is nominating and certainly indicated we're going to do this very consensually. So Councillor Daniels is nominating on the group. Councillor Brimblecombe, Councillor Moriarty. Is there any other nomination now? Is Councillor? Were we satisfied that Councillor Cypher may have had an interest? Oh, and I'm not be holding any of you to that, but I guess that would be my only concern, is if, yep. And we could revisit it, I guess. It's not so significant that we couldn't revisit it and remedy that, but certainly I'm just conscious of Councillor Cypher not being here. All right, so we have 3. Now, I'm in a very democratic way, would you two like to...
I'm happy to be the chair.
Sorry, Councillor Roll.
So you nominate 3 people, 3 councillors?
Yes.
Should there be a motion to say that they have been nominated and accept their nominations and are actually become membership of the reference group, whatever it is, advisory group. And then out of that, what are you saying, Lucy? You want
We want the chair
three,
appointed.
within the three councillors
we want
to
it
make the decision who's going to be the chair?
Yes, through you,
Isn't it
Mr Mayor, that's
after-
correct, councillor.
Isn't it after we've accepted the nominations of the three members of the advisory group?
Well, sorry.
Or do you want a separate?
No, I was going to do exactly that, but I'm doing it in a consensus manner in which I can record that the three councillors nominated and the chair will be Councillor Moriarty, if that's the case. Okay. So you're right, it'll be recorded like that. So, so any objections to that consensus discussion? Councillor Brindlecombe, Councillor Daniels? All good? All right. Okay, so the recommendation would be that we appoint three councillors, being Councillor Daniels, Councillor Brindlecombe and Councillor Moriarty, with Councillor Moriarty to be the chair of that group. So that's would be how the resolution would read. Thank you, Marnie. All right. Okay. That's fine. Okay. Right. Forever hold your peace. So, councillors, would someone like to move that recommendation then? Moved by Councillor, pretty quick to get rid of you three. Moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded by Councillor Rolfe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you very much. And appreciate you, councillors, taking on. There's been extra tasks and work that you pulled on in the last couple of agenda items, so appreciate that very much. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr
Looking
Mayor.
for the longevity of in the 50-year anniversary of the Central Highlands Natural Spaces Advisory Group at some point in time. All right. Thank you very much. Councillors, just a change now of department. We move across to corporate services. And the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting, that comes under General Manager Margaret Gatt, and certainly Maggie's in the room, I suspect. I'll let Margaret do the introductions.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. We're presenting to you today, apologies in advance, it's been a little bit delayed in getting the minutes of the Audit Committee to you. We generally don't take this long. So what we're actually tabling with you today is the unconfirmed minutes of our Audit Committee held on the 11th of March, and also note that the recommendations and actions contained within the minutes include the results of the self-evaluation undertaken by the Audit Committee in accordance with the committee's charter. I'll just hand over to Maggie now, our Manager Governance, to take us through some of the points notes of points of interest from the Audit Committee meeting minutes. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you, General Manager Gatt. Through the Chair, good morning, Mayor and councillors. The report before you today, as has been indicated by Mark Gatt, is that for Council to receive the unconfirmed minutes of the Central Highlands Regional Council Audit Committee meeting held on the 11th of March 2022. Also, it is recommending the Council note the recommendations and actions contained within the minutes, and also the results of the self-evaluation undertaken by the Audit Committee in accordance with the Committee's charter. I will take the report as read and wish to highlight some of the important matters that were discussed at the meeting. Importantly, two final audit reports were received, being the Business Continuity Plan and the Payroll Function and Human Resources, with recommendations endorsed by the Committee. Council's proposed 3-year strategic internal audit plan for 22-24 and annual plan for 22-23 was discussed, with some changes made, and those recommendations were endorsed by the Committee as well. An updated report will be tabled at the Audit Committee meeting this Friday. The external audit plan for 2022 was also noted. The QAO Draft 22-25 Forward Work Plan was also discussed, and an action from the Audit Committee was that this would be discussed at Council, and some thoughts given to and recommendations given to nominating those potential future audits of interest to Council. The Council's approach and methodology for the revaluation of Council's land, buildings and infrastructure assets for the reporting period ending 30 June 2022 was also noted. As has been mentioned, importantly, the Audit Committee also undertook a self-evaluation, and the results were noted and recommended to be presented to Council. These results are found at the back of the minutes, with a copy of the report presented to the Audit Committee by the Chair, Graham Webb. The assessment, as you will see, provides a positive result and indicates that the members of the committee consider the performance of the committee is meeting the committee's objectives sufficiently and effectively. This is as described and explained within the Charter. In closing, as Margaret has indicated, we would like to apologise for the lateness of this report, noting that this Audit Committee meeting was held on the 11th of March. This is the end of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the councillors may have. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Maggie. So, councillors, I thought there may be some interest, certainly in terms of the survey that was provided at the end of that. Certainly, Chair Graham Webb makes sure that we diligently follow, and he reports back prior and after meetings. So his activity around ensuring that the members are dutifully engaged is quite significant. Did any one of those members want to comment on any of these, or was there anything else you wanted to add, Councillor Rolfe or Councillor Moriarty? Councillor Moriarty, yeah.
No, just thank you very much. And thank you to our external members as well on that committee. So thank you.
Yep. Well, look, I think, sorry, Councillor Rolfe, did you have a comment? No? I think it is important, I guess, not particularly referring to any parts of the agenda, but certainly those audit subjects are quite important to this organisation. In respect of, I suppose, the opportunity of, the input there and the relevance of those, it is quite significant. I mean, I know audit committees are never short of things to actually study within and externally as well. And they are very, very diligent about pursuing some of these. Some of these are ongoing. There's been some activities that have been scrutinised by the committee for some period of time. That's not a criticism or in any way, shape or form some sort of measure of why that is the case. But it is very thorough and it is important that the right agenda items get on there. So the awareness of that committee and certainly those that participate is critical to making sure that it's one thing to have an audit committee. And I think you would have seen a report just recently that states that still in the state of Queensland there are councils that don't have an audit committee, which is quite unusual. And then obviously the effectiveness of others is something that is critically important. And given certainly the reports by QAO to the state parliament and the topical nature of that, things like financial assistance grants and whatever that topic, clearly those audit results are in some way, shape or form the most significant indicator to government of how local government is travelling if they're not engaged at a certain level. So it is an important portal. I'm not sure that sometimes everyone understands that that is probably the level of importance that it's considered, but it's certainly in a very political sense become quite important to statistical evidence that's presented to government in terms of things like funding and like performance of local government, their financial sustainability. So making sure there's lots of parts of that, but making sure that the accuracy of audits, if it's performing that role, is critically important. So it'll be an interesting exercise when we do review those. So Councillor Rolfe, that might have prompted you?
Prompted. So considering going through the audit report since then, in the last month, it is really quite obvious to see that the councils who do have audit committees and also have the internal and external audit of those councils, the oversight is really, really important for the success of our councils, and without it, you can see what happens. So I think we've just, it's a process, but it's really well worth going down that track. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, councillors, the recommendation is there, and thank you, Maggie, too. There's some interesting information there too, just even to see the tenure of some of our independent members. So it's really, really important. It's always in the back of your mind the sorts of people that you attract to your committee, and there's obviously that doesn't go on forever. There's still a tenure involved with this, so we should be mindful of that as well. So councillors, the recommendation is there that we receive those and note the recommendations, which is a part 2 of that. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Pimlicombe, seconded by Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillor. Carried. Customer and Commercial Services. Thank you very much, Maggie. Customer and Commercial Services, our amended community consultation. I've never seen an agenda item like this, Beck, before. Have we ever amended our... anyhow, councillors, this comes under the hand of General Manager Michelle. I'll let you do the introductions, Michelle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and unfortunately due to COVID provisions we've had to do some rescheduling of our council community consultations. So that happened in the case of both Comet and Orion consultations, and hence the report before council today in the rescheduling of those consultations. So I'll just hand over to Rebecca, Manager of Customer Service, to speak to her report. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Webster. Yes, the councillors and Mayor, good morning. The report before you today provides a proposed dates for the Comet and Orion Community Consultation Forums that were rescheduled at the end of March due to some increased exposure risk due to COVID. We had quite a number of cases floating around the region, so there was a last-minute decision to postpone those. Looking at the availability of councillors and staff and the corporate calendar, which is quite full at this time of the year, we've been able to find some sessions in September that we can potentially hold those consultations. You'll note that the timing hasn't changed from the previous schedule. We've kept the times the same, we've just moved the dates. So I'll now hand over to councillors if there's any questions about those dates.
Thank you, Beck. You'll surprise yourself one day. We'll have nothing to ask you, and we'll adopt it as posted. Are councillors happy with those amended dates? And I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion about making sure that's right with the number of people, the area reps, and certainly councillors in some of those that are located in those areas. Just again, we're happy that Councillor Cypher's happy with the arrangements that are in, because Councillor Cypher did express concern about, I guess, the location of, or the type of meeting we were going to have last time, so that's been addressed, Beck?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have consulted with both areas and community members in both areas just to confirm times and dates, and we did get support for them through the community, and I believe that was Councillor Cypher's concern previously, that we've just done an effective amount of consultation around the dates and the proposed times that meets the community's needs. So yes, we have done that.
All right, thank you. Beck?
Yep.
Sorry, go, Councillor Rolfe.
Rebecca, when's the school holidays?
Councillor Rolfe, apologies, I don't have it on the top of my head, but we...
I believe it starts the 2nd of, in September.
Yeah, September, October,
We'll
school
just
holidays.
quickly Google.
Yeah.
Marnie would have those?
Money would have this. No, it's only that, I don't know, you might, I think it'd be late.
We do, I can't...
19th of September apparently is the start, according...
Right.
So the Comet one might be in the school holidays. How does that sit?
I did note with the Comet one that I thought 5:30 would be a little bit more generous for those that work rather than 5 o'clock. But that was my only thought with Comet.
Is that possible, Beck? I mean, if we made it 5:30?
Yeah, definitely can change the time. Councillors have the discretion to do that.
I probably ruined the betting market down in your office about questions, but look, if that could be the case, for the sake of 30 minutes, that means someone that's probably working somewhere else can get there, so or get there at some stage. So if we make that 5:30, and would that be the same as Springshore as well, or it's the last line in that column? It's at 5. Yeah. It's council meeting day, so, but I'm just thinking people that want to attend 5 o'clock, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll, look, there's always a certain flexibility there, so that'll be fine. We'll all be there anyhow, so if you're happy with that, yeah. All right. Well, I've given everyone enough space there, Beck, so the recommendation is...
sorry, Mr Mayor, I've pressed my That's my button.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Just some clarification for the Bluff consultation. I just was wondering, which one are we adopting? We're adopting the one on page 85? Is it page 85? Is that right? Because we've got the Bluff at 3 o'clock and then Bluff at 2 o'clock. But talking to the community, I think they were happy with later, but we did say that it was going to be 3 o'clock. We're sort of trying to push it. We get more people later in the day to the CRG meetings than we do earlier in the morning, is my observation, early in the day. But we do like to vary. But I just wanted to clarify that it would be much better if the Bluff one was the 3 o'clock rather than 2.
Yeah, so it's in the report. It was the adopted schedule we had.
Yeah.
So if you're saying it should be 3, well, I'm sure that can work.
Yeah. I just was wondering why it's 3 and then 2 or...
No, because it was... No, well, the report is actually a lift, a cut and paste of what you adopted. So it's a copy of the resolution that happened there, and it says there's a background that was the previously adopted one. So this, what we're dealing with today, is the proposed new one.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is a, it should be 3 o'clock on the recommendation.
Yes, sorry. Oh, sorry, yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Beck. I just was like, I thought we agreed on the, at least moving it to that back a bit so that people have the opportunity to get there. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation will include, with the 2 changes, will be comment 5:30 and Bluff should be 3 p.m. Is that correct, Beck?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Beautiful. Right. So money that can be fixed in the column. Okay. All right, councillors, someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded by Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Beck. So those who are betting on just 2 changes and 7 minutes can collect. Right, councillor, infrastructure and utilities, I don't have any reports in this particular decision action area. The CEO's office here has an item 12.5.1, which is the Developing Northern Australia Conference, 6 to 8 of July.
Happy for me to proceed?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
That's all right. So, councillors, upcoming on the 6th to 8th of July, as the Mayor said, is the Developing Northern Australia Conference. So the report is just to determine if any councillors would like to attend this conference, and if so, who. The agenda is attached, so councillors are able to see what's to be covered. Understand that councillors don't always attend this conference, but often when it is located closer to our region rather than interstate, councillors do attend. So over to councillors.
Right, councillors, and certainly in terms of the indicative cost, it is not a cheap conference to attend in terms of a local conference, but we do, I guess, like to support the fact that at the inaugural Developing Northern Australia Conference, they were certainly held very much in the northern part of Australia, so Cairns and Darwin, and obviously organisations along, I guess you'd say, the southern part of Northern Australia, if that's the thing, decided that it would be good, and so certainly Rockhampton held them last year, and I think some of us attended there, and this is in Mackay, so I think it's always helpful, certainly from a local government perspective, that those issues that are relevant to the broader part of what we call the central Queensland agenda in the Northern Australia initiative should be representative, and I think it's been quite successful. So that's the dates. Councillors, indications of who might like to attend? I will be attending. I suspect I might have a spot there at some point. Happy to go. Councillor Rolfe, Councillor Carpenter. All right. Any other further noms? Could we also make provision for Councillor Cypher in case that, so just put Councillor Cypher there to be confirmed, if that's all right? I'm doing it as a mechanism, councillors, just in case and we did that with Councillor Burns and Councillor Daniels for the conference that they weren't here for the meeting. All right, councillors, so the recommendation would be that we'd be represented by Councillor Rolfe, Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Hayes. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded by Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? So, oh, sorry.
So,
Councillor
just,
Moriarty.
sorry,
I apologise.
just, this one's just the little typo one, sorry. The purpose, the 2020. Thanks,
Well
sorry,
spotted.
sorry,
Well
thank
spotted.
you.
All right. Thank you, councillors. All right. I see Arjun Bloomer has moved himself to the back of the room. So Arjun, this is a Central Highlands Development Corporation report. 14.5.1 is our service level agreement Q3 update. So Arjun, yeah, come down. Well, I think that, quite frankly, councillors, that's okay. If we can do Arjun's service level agreement, then we can break for morning tea. So no, fine, Arjun, come on down. Just hit your button there, Arjun, thank you. Yep. Thanks, Arjun.
Again, thank you for the opportunity, Mayor Hayes and councillors, to present the service level agreement for the third quarter of this financial year. And as you will see, the format has changed. We've changed it upon request from council into a PowerPoint format. I assume you've all read the SLA report, but there's a few things that I want to highlight from the first page when we look at the business and investment attraction side. Our initiative CH Invest, which is about creating a investment fund where local buy actually contribute, the miners, CHRC, CHDC, is now in feasibility study phase. So we are kicking that off, creating a fund that benefits the Central Highlands community, which is a great initiative. We have engaged with an external consulting firm to support us with that. Oh, sorry, do I need to? There we go. Excuse me for that. So that's on the top left, CH Invest, that initiative has kicked off. We also engaged through the membership of the Local Content Leaders Network in the early stages of the Valeria project, giving them a gentle nudge to spend as much local as they can, engage with local businesses. So we not just the mine benefits, but also the local business community. We supported the response to the Queensland Resource Industry Development Plan from the Department of Resources, and our role was actually to really realign all the responses across stakeholders. That included CHRC, CHDC, but also Queensland Sapphires Miners Association, Rubyville Progress Association, so that we had one response, because it's an important community for the Central Highlands, not just from an economic perspective, but also from a tourism perspective. They contribute $22 million to our visitor economy. And we have changed a few providers, which brings me to our data element. We changed from Ivy to Eventbrite, which gives us a better insight in buying behavior and buying tickets and who's buying tickets and that data. We also changed from Indigo Gold to Ground Guru. That's a really good step for us, because now we have the full suite of grants across the nation, and we offer now, and we're actually currently implementing that. We offer the opportunity to businesses to really go into our website, look at Ground Guru, and search grants that are applicable for them, and also provide them with tools to actually fill out the grants. So that was a gap that we had. We didn't have all the grants available, and we didn't have the full support. And now they have the templates, how to respond, examples, videos, how to respond to grants. So that's really important to us, and it also allows us to measure the uptake and make changes where we find the appropriate opportunity. The other thing that we've done with providers is is leverage Google Analytics, so we have rich data about our visitors on the website, and we have been able to target our audience much more specific, and that has given us an increase of visitors by 50%, and we continue to work through that data that we have. But we're now very much specific in how we target those. We have been working to upgrade our CQ JobLink site to understand the effectiveness of people looking for job opportunities, and learning from the data, we can now help businesses to actually advertise in such a way that they attract an audience, and that is a really good step. And the last data element from a provider, we went out with our business survey recently, and asking for feedback where the challenges are, where the opportunities are, but also how we can further support and how we can improve our support. Sorry, I just need a little bit of a zip. Sorry for that. The business facilitation, that's the role that looked after our small, medium enterprises, and although our previous business facilitator resigned, we managed to recruit a new business facilitator, and that is working out really well. She's out and about in the community. It's Ashley Kavanagh, who used to work as a community engagement officer for CHRC, and we're really pleased that this strong connection with CHRC is there, and that community element, because this is where community and business community really blend. So we've been working with LBF, who funds this role, to how we go about, how we go forward, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-on-one copy of the former business facilitator. She has to find her own way, and we're helping her with that. She's going to be widely introduced at a network event at the end of May, where we are inviting the business community from Central Highlands to meet the new business facilitator, and we were very active in getting those businesses. On the 6th of June, after our board meeting in Blackwater, we also have a network opportunity where we not just give the board the opportunity to engage with the local Blackwater businesses, but where we also give Ashley Kavanagh as the business facilitator the opportunity to engage. And they're actually going out, Ashley and Kylie Hawkins, tomorrow to Blackwater to literally go door to door for all the businesses, making sure that they know that she's there and that we have the event coming up. Agribusiness. Unfortunately, we have both our Agri coordinator and our Ag Frontier program manager resign in February. That left us with a challenge. It also gave us an opportunity to really revisit the Agri strategy. When one person resigned, we thought, are we going to recruit the same role, but with two people resigning, we had a discussion with the board and said, look, we now have also an opportunity to revisit our Agri strategy, and I'm working with the CHRC chair to present that strategy approach to the board, because there are a few elements that we want to look at. Do we want to reinstall the CHA, the Central Highlands Accelerate Agriculture, and making sure that we recruit the right person to deliver that strategy, instead of the other way around, recruiting someone and then look at what are the capabilities and what can we do. So that is in progress. Tourism, a lot is happening in the tourism industry, and I hope that you was able to watch Gem Hunters Down Under yesterday evening, filmed in the Central Highlands. It was a bit of a longer episode than I thought, an hour and 15 minutes. But it does show that there's a strong interest on every front in the Central Highlands, and what we have done, and you've been informed of the plans. The Taste of Australia episode is now actually being filmed. It's broadcasted in the second week of June, and I will share the exact date. But that's a really good opportunity for us to showcase not just tourism, but also the great produce that we have in our region. There are discussions being started about the RTO, the regional tourism organizations, and there are plans to reassess the boundaries. So we're currently part of a member of Capricorn Enterprise, which means that we fall under the Great Southern Barrier Reef, which is a bit odd. And you might recall that if you drive into the Central Highlands, the first thing you see is welcome, and then you see a big turtle swimming over the coral reef. So we don't necessarily associate with that RTO, and there's an initiative where there might be a new RTO, which is called Queensland Inland Country, and that follows actually the Great Inland Way from a geographic perspective. It's early days, but the good thing is that the new RTO will also have 2 to 4 people employed in the Central Highlands, which means that there will be a push from Toowoomba, where the head office will be, and a pull element from the Central Highlands, and they need to work closely together, and we aim to play a role in that. You will see that there's quite a few shows planned. We've increased the number of shows where we want to attend, not just the big camping and caravan shows, but also the local shows, the Emerald Show, the Spring Show. And what I personally really like as a member of this community is that we managed to revitalize GemFest. As you might recall from a previous report, GemFest, the whole committee stood down. CHRC stepped in to take the president role. It was the only role that was there, and we managed to revitalize that. There's now a committee, there's now subcommittees, and the GemFest is pushing ahead, which is great, not just for us to see that result, but it's predominantly great for the community, because it is our biggest tourism event in the region. I already managed communications and the data that we use, the Google Analytics, the click-through data to make our decisions. You will see, particularly in two elements, the CHRC social media followers, where we see a 50% increase since the start of this financial year, and that continues. And I'm not saying we're aiming to catch up to the CHRC websites, but it's good to see those numbers in comparison. Also, the What's On event calendar. We've created that calendar early this financial year, and we see now already 900 events posted. And the good thing is that we can work, and it's not just community events, it's also businesses organizing, restaurants organizing, and a singer and any event goes on there. The good thing is that we have now the data to actually help them promote their events in a better way, in a more effective way, attract more customers. And our visitor center staff is using any spare time that they have to upgrade the website and engage with those businesses that have their events on our websites, and there are 900 events posted. So it does show there's a lot of things happening in the Central Highlands, and it's really become the go-to place. We're also looking to, and that's on the bottom left, the CHRC website that is being brought to that we need an upgrade to that website to attract more visitors, make it more intuitive to find what you need to find, and provide businesses with the tools. An example is Ramplan, where they can reach out to us and we provide the data to them. We're now building out the idea that businesses can also go in themselves and play with the data. So create a scenario. What if I organize this event? What if I do that? What is the economic impact to my organization and my region? And that's an important tool for our business community. Quickly on events. The good thing is that we've managed to secure some really good partnerships. I mentioned the 3 diamond partnerships, but we also have a lot of other partnerships already in flight, which means that a lot of our events are actually self-funded by sponsors, by business communities, by state government. for those who were there, Economic Futures Forum, really great feedback, particularly on Dr. McPhee, and we're following up with him and a community group to bring extra focus on mental health. It's a community thing, but it's also very much a topic in the business community. And then there are some future events. We sent out the invites to Farm to Fine Dining yesterday, and we already have 36 people confirming their attendance, which is way beyond the past. But for me, it shows that the brand that we built around Farm to Fine Dining is now really paying off. It's an event where you have to be, if you are a key stakeholder or a key decision maker in the industry. And last, it's a bit general. I couldn't find a better word for that, but we have had our first board meeting in a second board meeting in region. We had our one Capella, which was in March. The good thing is that we get great feedback because we combine it with what we call a chairman's lunch, where we invite local businesses to engage with our board. So our board learns more about, okay, what are the local challenges, what are the opportunities, and bring that back into the CHDC organization and advise on how we can be more strategic and tailor our services. We had recently one in Gemfields, and what we've learned there is that connectivity across the region is still a strong focus for our organization. And I think that's were the highlights that I wanted to touch upon. I'm happy to take any questions from councillors or Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Arjun. There's clearly a lot of information there. Councillors, questions? Oh, Councillor Moriarty, you're right to go. Yep.
Yep. Oh, great. Thank you very much, Arjun. I really appreciate it. And thank you. That was good having the PowerPoint presentation as well to follow through with all the great information that's in here. I have a couple of comments and then a question. On the first slide, the business and investment attraction, under the CH Invest, I know that that's going through a process of looking at, developing up that, and we recently supported that through council as well, that initiative. So it's a similar sort of local buy kind of
Correct.
Investment with resources communities. And I know at the time Peter Dowling presented that, and I was just keen to just raise again that social enterprises are part of that in some way, shape or form, with getting support for that sector as well.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that is part of the study that we're doing, the feasibility study. It's not just how do we get a percentage of the local spend from the parties involved, but also how is it going to be spent, where do we spend it on, and that could be a skate park, or it could be supporting the Emerald Neighbourhood Centre, could be anything. Yeah. But that's part of the study. Where does the contributors to the fund want to spend their money on?
Particularly talking about some of the other pure social enterprises too that are in the region as well. Thank you. And on the slide under tourism, the RTO, I have always struggled with being aligned with that southern Great Barrier Reef as well, but we've always sort of not really fallen in either the remote and really remote sort of outback kind of I've felt, and I just like that Queensland inland country, because I just feel like we're not the remote, we're not the coast, it's something that's in the middle there. And I take your point about the turtle, but I also would like to raise that perhaps under our new RTO, that some of the signs that are welcoming to all of the communities across our region actually have people's faces and perhaps smiling faces. I know when you drive through regions and their signage actually have people rather than just landscape, you get a different feel about the region, and it really gives it some personality. My 2 bobs worth there.
If I'm, thank you, Councillor Moriarty. It is very early days in the discussion, very early, but I will take your point to any meetings when the time is.
Thank you.
Right.
I just thought I'd just throw that in there.
Thank you for flagging.
And finally, I do have a question. Under events, with the Innovation Forum, it's scheduled for Tuesday, the 22nd of August. And is that being held in Emerald, or is it being held, like, is that rotating around the region? Because was it last held in Emerald?
Yes, it is held. Last time it was held in Emerald. That was 2 years ago because we cancelled last year because of COVID. There is a little bit of context of doing it in Emerald again, and we consider going out to the regions. One is that we have Ian McFarlane, the CEO of Queensland Resources Council, presenting, and we're very happy that they have their half-yearly meeting held in Emerald. We've been advocating to bring the resources industry into Emerald and have their event the evening before in Emerald, so they are here. That's why we managed to get him as a speaker. The other reason is that we have the Queensland Chief Entrepreneur as a speaker, and he comes with his full innovation advisory board, 10 people, to spend 3 days, Monday to Wednesday, in the Central Highlands, and we're currently working with them to build their itinerary.
Okay.
So it is again in Emerald, but there's good reasons this time to have it in Emerald, and we're very proud to have these 2 keynote speakers, but also to have the Resource Council and their stakeholders in our town to have that meeting.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Any other questions? Thanks, Arjun. That's quite comprehensive. So, on that RTO discussion, I mean, I know we've discussed it in here as well, and at some point there will have to be, I guess, the questions are being asked by the RTO that we're currently in about the formality of that actual process, and it does seem to be quite informal insofar as the way that it's been, I guess, rolled out or proposed. So it'll be interesting, and it would be, and it will be, certainly an invitation to talk to this council, I guess, in terms of just, indicating our clear direction about some of that stuff too, Arjun. And I know that Capricorn Enterprise is certainly very interested in, obviously, our movement, because we currently probably support some of their capacity. I know it's probably arguable and subjective about just what that is, but certainly they are interested in that, so it'll be good to catch up with them at some stage. All right. Councillors all happy with that report? Well, I think councillors might have a recommendation there that we receive Arjun's report. Recommendation is there that we receive that quarterly update. So thank you, Ed. Someone happy to move? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded. Councillor Burns, all in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you.
Councillors, that's all of our agenda items for today. I'll just check in money. Is there any other subsidiary information we're looking for today? No? All good. Councillors, that brings us to our general business. Is there any general business councillors may have? Councillor Rolfe.
So with the rain, Mayor, I'm not sure what will be happening to the RFDS Buckland Day, which is on Saturday, 14th. So it might be don't know if it
It's
rains.
pleasantly restricted, but
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
But that, just to note that
Note that
it is on, it's on the agenda for this weekend, but we'll have to wait and see whether it can. Thanks.
All right, no other general business, councillors? All right, there being no further business, I'll declare the meeting closed at 10:50. Thank you, councillors, thank you, executive leadership team, thank you, officers, for being here. And yeah, thank you to our streamers for dialing in today.